Hello and welcome to another episode of Steelfur Speaks with, of course, me. Let's bring my mic a bit closer. Steelfur, aka Finbar, London-based flesh and blood and other card game player. So, a few weeks ago I put out a video reviewing the Wraith Times Levia deck and saying I didn't really understand why, they thought it was good. I didn't think it was good at all, to be honest. It was clunky. Too many cards that relied on Levia's ability. Generally just, the hands were not optimized. There was no way to get particularly good hands going. In my opinion, after playing it for a few games and sort of trying to line things up after goldfishing hands for a long time, it just felt like every hand was awkward. After that video, I was contacted by Evan Van Sant, who, of course, made a top 4 with Levia, and he said, look, you're looking at the hero all wrong. Why don't you have a look at my deck? Why don't you play that? It's fun. It doesn't kill itself as much. It has a lot more power turns. I said, all right, that sounds like a challenge. I like a challenge. And I kind of owe Levia an apology, actually. Is she the best deck in the format? Obviously not. That's Aggro Katsu. But after playing with her and the deck for about 2 weeks now, gotten about 30-40 reps in against good decks, bad decks, average decks, the deck is good. In fact, actually, I would say to the point that I think if Levia had had this deck at the start of the RTN season and people had tried this deck earlier on, that she would A, be more popular, and B, would probably have won at least one, if not more, Road to Nationals at this point. I think having played the deck is of a quality that if it had undergone another 3 or 4 weeks of, tuning and practice with better players and more people playing it, that actually statistically, if more people rocked up to a tournament with this deck and say there were 5 or 6 Levia players instead of 1, that this deck actually could have made the final or potentially won an RTN. Okay, so that bold claim is out of the way. But let me apologise to Levia first so she doesn't eat me. And let's go into a bit of a deck tech / gameplay video. So, the deck is running claws. Primarily claws. It has Metax for... Okay, so let's break down cards one by one. Okay, and we've already got one weekend of RTNs left, so if I give away a secret tech, no one's really gonna mind, but you should see this deck because it's a lot of fun. So you've got the claws. 2 cost to attack. If you've discarded a 6 or more strength card this turn, it gets go again. You might be thinking, but Levia is about banishing, not about discarding. If you think that, then you have been playing Levia wrong. Discarding cards before you have a large portion of blood debt in your discard pile fills your discard pile up, allowing you to banish cards and therefore fueling the entire engine. Therefore, discarding cards in the early game is the strongest and fastest way to get Levia's ability working for you in the late game, especially against heroes that do not block or that you do not want to block or that do not give you the opportunity to block, like Viserai or Kano, for example. Ravenous Metax is there for Viserai and Kano matchups because Viserai OTK will not block. Will not attack you, and therefore you cannot fill up your graveyard with things. You need to be able to consistently discard cards. Therefore, you put in the Metax and you put in the Skullhorn for the Null Rune barrier to give yourself a bit of a buffer. Though Null Rune, of course, not Skullhorn, not against Viserai. If you're expecting heavy Viserai, you obviously want to put in maybe a Null Rune gloves or something like that. Skullhorn is a good anti-Kano. Arcane Skullcap for more armor. Carrion Husk, obviously, for more armor. Tunic for control-y games again. Your Viserais, your OTK Boltons, your slow decks. So you're going to build up a lot of Tunic tokens, and they're not going to be hitting you as much. So you don't have to worry about Carrion Husk because you need to try and kill them before they actually get to the point where you'd want to trigger Husk. Gambler's Gloves for rerolling Scabskins. Scabskins is very good in this deck. Keep the Gambler's Gloves until late game so you can make sure you don't die to blood debt, because rolling 2 ones in a row does happen, but it's statistically unlikely. Scabskins are just really good early game just to get a power turn in, and if it doesn't work, you just Arsenal something and pass. Boneyard Marauder's great. Good for banishing some cards. Good for a 1 for 6, good for sliding in with the Dread Screamer and for a 6 and a 6 attack. Perfection. Commander Conquer's a great card, also 6 attack, perfect for Levia. Deadwood Rumblers are interesting because obviously they don't block, but they are a very aggressive card, being 3 for 6 and 3 for 8. Having a blue that pitches for 6 is why the blues get a slot. The reds get a slot against aggro decks because you're not trying to block that much. And having a 3 for 8 is just massive. Also, the draw and then discard does fill up your graveyard, and it can be a bit RNG sometimes, but there are a lot of 6 costs in the deck, so statistically, you are going to hit this condition, which can save you from blood debt if you don't have another out. Dread Screamer gives you go again for 2. It is amazing. It combos with the 1 and the other 1 cost cards to give you a really big turn where you come in for 6 or 4 and then 6 and 7. Or if you've done some of the other combos in this deck, maybe 7 and 8 or 8 and 9, depending on how you do it. Endless Maw is a 3 for 9. It's a great 2-card hand late game, even mid game, really. Just come in to smash for 9. Ghostly Visit gets banished, and then if you have go again from, say, a Pulping or a Dread Screamer, you can chuck it out there with a blue, which makes it really good. Graveling Growls are 1 for 7. You meet the condition almost every turn, which means that you can play this almost every turn. It's also really good with Art of Wars because you can banish literally anything and then play it with go again. I've had a really good Art of War turn where I banished just, I think, a Pulping with an Art of War and then gave it go again, drew 2 cards, and then played double Graveling Growl for 14 and 14. Sorry, for 7 and 7. What's wrong with that? Pulping gets go again, which is super important for this deck, and Dominate, which is great for finishing off the deck. Pummel is your sideboard card. You take out Deadwood Rumblers against aggro. Some aggro matchups like Bolton. There's a few others. Basically, Pummel goes in if you have people who don't like to block and don't want to give you their hand. So if someone has a 4-card hand that they really need, like, say, Prism or Bolton, they can go the Pummels, and that'll kind of do the job to get the card out of their hand, even if they don't block. If you put in Pummel, you're also playing Tunic, so when the Tunic goes in, the Pummel goes in because you need the resources. So just think about that as a combo. So when you put one in, you put the other one in. Hungry Slaughter Beast is a 2 for 7 that also fulfills your banish requirements. It's great. A Sink Below for certain matchups where you just need that extra defense reaction, like Dorinthia. Unmovables for Dorinthia specifically. You just need to be able to block out and remove her counters. Proved very effective last night. I could basically use Unmovable and Husk to strip the counters off after smacking them for a ton of damage, and then just played Unmovable and Husk to remove the counters, and they couldn't really do anything about it because I was blocking for 14 from Arsenal and from my equipment, so they couldn't actually play any of their reprise effects. Art of War's amazing, as you'd expect. It guarantees you a 6 strength banish to turn off Levia, draw 2 cards, get go again. Really good on defense, really good on attack. If you use, for example, if you roll Scabskins early game before you play Art of War, you can roll Scabskins. If you get 2 actions, you can choose +1/+1 instead of go again. That's a really powerful combo. Beast Within is great. There's loads of stuff that can discard it, like Pulping, like Deadwood Rumbler, and it can basically draw you another card at the cost of 2 life. And also, the important thing to remember, of course, is that it banishes the card, and then it goes into your hand. So Beast Within single-handedly can also turn off Levia. So, for example, if you Bloodrush Bellow into a Beast Within, you actually turn off Levia for the turn as well, which is fantastic. Arg Smash, why wouldn't you play it if you're expecting any dash in the meta? Just chuck 2 in, win the game against dash. Bloodrush Bellow is an amazing card for a power turn. Similar to Art of War, you've got Art of War turns and you've got Bloodrush Bellow turns. They're both pretty much power turns. You can play both together if you want and draw a ton of cards. I've definitely done that for maximum effect. One turn, I had a Bloodrush Bellow Art of War turn where I came in with the Mandibles for 5 and 5. Then I played a Dread Screamer coming in for 9. And then I played an Endless Maw. Oh, no, sorry, it was a Deadwood Rumbler coming in it was an Endless Maw coming in for 12, right? And that's kind of like a god turn, basically, but, why not? Convulsions is a blue, which can also help you finish the game if you really have to dominate something. If you're late game, they have no equipment, you dominate a CNC, they can't play defense reactions, you win. Doomsday works every game when you draw it at the right time. Sometimes you don't want to play it because Blasphemet isn't necessarily as good, and late game you have to banish something, so maybe you need to banish something rather than playing Blasphemet. Energy Potion is specifically for Bravo and control games. You kind of need this to get a bit more fuel for the fire late game, so just chuck that in. Mark of the Beast, when you attack with it, it banishes itself and turns off Levia, another really good safe 2-card hand for late game. Because you just basically, you can block with 2 cards, keep Mark of the Beast, and maybe you have one of these 6 costs at Arsenal. Roll your Scab Skins. If you get a 2, you go Mark of the Beast with a blue, and then into a Graveling Growl, and you've turned off. Basically, Mark of the Beast will deal with the Graveling Growl's requirements, and you just go for it. As well as saving you from Levia. I combos really well with Bloodrush Bellow, Art of War, Deadwood Rumblers, and Pulpings, just to make sure that you're guaranteeing you're hitting the 6 cost. So, for example, if you pay for a Pulping with an eye, you can guarantee that you don't have any cards in hand. You can guarantee you hit a 6 cost, and then discard it. And then, of course, if you have that floating resource for one of these, or a Ghostly Visit's always there, then you get the Go Again, likely from the Dominate, and then you have this other option of doing a strong attack after it. Reckless Swing finishes out so many aggro games. People are, you pitch them early on, they come back later on. People are not afraid of, people get down to quite low life because you're hitting them quite hard, and you will finish off a game from someone's on 4 or someone's on 2 just by reckless swinging them at the right time. So just, that is a thing that happens. Plenty of aggro games go down to the wire because they're trying to be like, oh, well, I'll just take some damage so I can hurt you. And if they're not taking damage, they're not going to hurt you. So, it's fine either way. You'll get them into a reckless swing position, and then you can finish them off because there's lots in the deck. Soul Harvest is in there for coolness effect. It is also kind of good versus OTK Bolton and Prism as that banishes all the cards from their soul. Especially OTK Bolton, it can wreck it. Coming in for 12 is great. Like, coming in for 12 is great. You're not going to play this with anything else. I mean, maybe if you have a Convulsions in your... Like God Turn, right? You have a Convulsions in your arsenal, Soul Harvest, and 3 other blues in your hand. You play Convulsions, you play Soul Harvest, you banish 6 cards, you come in for 12 Dominate, right? That's God Turn. Is it going to happen? No. But otherwise, Soul Harvest coming in for 9 is a pretty good threat late game. Or you just, use it against the light heroes and just win the game because, if it comes in for 12 and they can't, they have to block their entire hand, if they even let 1 through, they lose life equal to the number of cards from their soul. Recoromp's a blue that's for 6. It also helps fill the graveyard early on. If you draw it and another blue, you can just play it turn 1, draw a card, discard a random card. Sorry, just discard a random card and, you're happy filling up that graveyard. Plunder Run is obviously amazing. It's a blue. A lot of brute cards are 6 strength and 6 attack. Making it 7 makes them a 3 block, especially with this condition. So, like, going Scab Skins, getting a 2, playing Plunder Run, or even going Plunder Run... Sorry, I'm a bit of a cold today. Even going Plunder Run Dread Screamer in for 7, and if they don't block with 3 cards, then you get a card draw, which you can turn into something else, is amazing. And then we have Gorgonian Tome, again, just for drawing early, filling up that graveyard. It's really good. Blasphemet is alright. I mean, he's good. Like, he's not amazing. His ability compared to Ursa is not great. Just like Soul Harvest compared to Soul Reaping is not great. But he is a power card, and obviously if you have a Go Again, like, if you're going for Bloodrush Bellows or something, you've got Claws, playing Blasphemet, coming in for another 6 is good, because it's always just there as an option, and you've got a lot of Go Again that you can chain into Blasphemet when you've got the Go Again on the table, where you may be blocking with, say, like, you're blocking with 2 cards because it's late game, so you're blocking for like 6, and then you're playing a Dread Screamer with a blue, and you have Blasphemet on the table. You can just come in for a blue and a 6, still off 2 cards, so it is quite a good threat, especially for slower games. And that's kind of the deck. You'll see that the ratio of actual blood deck cards isn't super high. There's obviously a lot of them because you need to consistently get 1 a turn, but you're also relying on stuff like Beast Within, Art of Wars for banishes, rather than necessarily always banishing something with a load of blood deck cards. And the reason for that is that the blood deck cards will kill you. You need to have consistent banishes, but you also need to be able to play the cards. And every card you put in that says banish 3 random cards from your graveyard is another cost to play that quickly adds up if you draw them consistently. Which is why you have things like Deadwood Rumbler instead of lots more Endless Maws or Dread Screamers. Because ultimately, this banish 3 becomes a very relevant cost. And you can't always play it, and it's when you can't play it that you die to blood debt. So you need to be able to make sure your graveyard is stacked. All right, so we do have some games for you today. Just let me fix something quickly. All right, so we have some games, and I'm just going to talk through them with you guys. So this is me into Chain. Not the most experienced Chain player, but he's not terrible. He was going first, didn't have a great hand, made a Soul Shackle, made a Rune Chant, called it a day. You'll look at my hand. I'm very happy to just play a Pulping. You know, I'm getting a card in my graveyard. If it gets Dominate, it's guaranteed to get Dominate. So, get a card in my graveyard, I get Go again. Unfortunately, I don't have the resources now to attack a second time, which would have been amazing. I would have loved to go on with the Command and Conquer here. And that can happen, but I haven't got any blood debt. I've come in for 6 with Dominate, which my opponent has taken because he's obviously seen some good aggro in his hand, though it's pretty early game. Chain to be taking that much damage. And then I'm going in with just Arsenal the Command and Conquer and keep going. So this hand... Sorry, let's get rid of that. This hand is a bit more awkward because obviously I've got 3 cards that require me to banish 3, but I don't have any of those cards in my hand. So really my goal on this turn is actually just to block. Like block with 2 cards, pitch the Dread Screamer to play Command and Conquer, and then Arsenal the Plunder run blue. Because that 2 cards will fill my graveyard up a bit more. That will give me 4 cards in my graveyard. I don't really want to do any more. Whether I remember this in the game, I think I did. You know how the structure of this works. I talk through the plays that I see while I'm watching myself play, and then we'll talk about what I actually did and why I think that was a mistake, or the right decision, based on how it went. Because, I mean, obviously hindsight is 2020, and I can sit here watching myself play a game and talk about it, and I'll be like, oh, I should have just done that. But it's not so easy when you're actually playing the game. So block for 3 on the Shadow of Ursa. Then just skip ahead. He comes in with another Shadow of Ursa. And now I take it, and I'm not really sure why I took that damage, because obviously if I'm Command and Conquering... Let's see. Yeah, I think I took that damage because I knew he was going to sword me. So I was just going to block for 4 and not give him a Rune Chant. Yeah, so on my turn, I am free to Command and Conquer. Obviously, he's got the Arsenal, so I'm forcing the block now. I mean, Command and Conquer by itself, just going with 1 Command and Conquer into a chain or someone with an Arsenal, is just such an aggressive play. And obviously with Lexia coming out and double Arsenal slots, it's going to be even more aggressive. It's going to be beautiful. So I'm a bit worried about the price of the card, because obviously it's already costing so much. And we're getting a hero that relies massively on the Arsenal. And it's clear that, in some ways, okay, it's clear in my mind that CNC was printed with Tales of Aria in mind, with this really threatening Arsenal hero in mind. Because I mean, the template for Ranger was obviously set before Azalea, probably with Lexi as an Arsenal heavy hero who has 2 Arsenals and lots of arrows, and then we got Azalea, who is quite Arsenal dependent. but not particularly top tier. And now we have CNC to stop Azalea, but stops everyone. And I mean, versus Alexi, CNC is going to be so good. I think it's top of my list on candidates for reprinting. I really don't see how we can get away with not reprinting some staples like CNC and E-Strike very soon. Unlimited boxes are still selling, and I will say that the presence of CNC and E-Strike is keeping the EV of Arcane Rising and Welcome to Wraith up, which is actually quite positive for the game, because it means that people can buy those boxes without losing a ton of money, which I think is very important. But it is a worry of mine. It is a worry of mine how strong those cards are, especially going into Tails, how strong those cards are. So looking at his hand, I don't actually want to block here. On my turn, I want to pitch the Convulsions to pay for the Blood Rush Bellow, draw 2 cards, and then essentially go with a big turn, because I've got all these blues. I'm going to have a lot of resources to use with the claws, and I have Go Again in my I have Plunder Run in my arsenal, so I can do claws and Go Again and lots of fun stuff like that, right? So I took 6. He's already used his shackle, so the amount of damage I'm going to take this turn is probably 8 more, if I don't choose to use my equipment, which I might. But I've only used 1 armor yet so far, so it's not like I'm super worried about anything like that. Yeah, I'm thinking about blocking again, but I don't think I will. I think blocking on this turn would be a mistake. Though from my perspective, it looks like he's on 20 life, but actually I think he's on 28 life. So he's not as low as I thought he was. Yeah, so Seeds of Agony into an Unhallowed Rites. Another 5 damage. Sorry, just take it. And then he's out of resources. Take 3 blood debt. At this point, I'm just helping him out because he's fairly new to TTS, so he's a bit slow on stuff. So good player, but doesn't play on TTS as often as I do. Then on my turn, I can do my Blood Rush Bellow turn, so I pitch that. I get him to choose a card, but it's a lie because both of the cards are there. He picks the red, which is exactly what I want him to pick. 2 resources floating, draw 2 cards, Mark of the Beast, and Graveling Growl. There's a bit of a tricky problem here, which is that I can't play the Graveling Growl yet. I have to do something to banish a card, which is hard to do. So obviously I'm going to claw, because that's just great. And I think I claw, and then Mark of the Beast. Yeah. It's a slightly tricky hand, because you need to get those things going. So if I claw twice, and then Mark of the Beast for 8. So that's 5, 5, and 8. And obviously, if the last one hits, I draw a card. I get the husk there, so I don't draw a card. But that's fine. Oh, it's for 9, though. No. Well. Anyway. Yeah, that's fine. I think I just forgot that. So, that would have actually drawn me a card then from Plunder Run, which, is important not to miss, because I could have arsenaled something tasty. But I'm fairly solidly confident in how this game is going. You see what I mean? When I talked about the deck tech, I talked about the fact that you have Blood Rush Bellow turns, Art of War turns, or combination turns. And you'll see that when I get an Art of War, or I get a Bloodrush Bellow, that turn is very aggressive. But unlike, say, unlike Rhinar, who has Bloodrush Bellow turns, um, you know, and well, I guess he has barraging beatdown turns as well. But Bloodrush Bellow is the real engine for a heavy dominate win for him. Having Art of War and Bloodrush Bellow actually makes the deck very flexible in that regard. Um, anyway, my goal for this turn is actually just to block with the Wrecker Romp, play the Command and Conquer, and arsenal the Bloodrush Bellow for another big turn next turn. Alternatively, blocking with 2 cards, maybe, just depending on what's happening. I think he came in with E-Strike Go Again for 7 damage. At which point, I think I just take the damage. I mean, I've only got 1 blood debt, right? So my goal here could very just as easily be to block. You know, I could block with 2 cards, 3 cards even. Yeah, so he came in for 5. I just blocked it out. He drew a card from E-Strike, and then he gave it Go Again. Very interesting. A lot of people are confused about the shield, the Guardian Shield we just got previewed. They think it's a token, but it's actually not. It's a common, which is quite interesting. Because that implies that the weapon is a token. But if the weapon is a token and the shield is a common, I don't know. Are there more shields? Do you play the shield somehow? I don't know. Like there's a bit of confusion there about how that's going to go. So we've got a Riftbind coming in for 6. I take 6 because I think I've got a good aggro turn. Again, and I take another 3. Now this may be a mistake. I could have blocked some of this, but I've got a Bloodrush Bellow. I could block more and arsenal it, but the problem is I don't. The Reckless Swing is not ideally the Reckless Swing probably just needs to be pitched at this point because I've not got a good way to play Bloodrush Bellow while the Reckless Swing is in my hand. So I need to get rid of it. So we go for a Bloodrush Bellow turn. We get some resources, hope to draw a blue, hope he picks the red. He picks the blue, which isn't great for me because I need those resources for this turn. But I do draw another blue. So you'll see here I've got 2 resources, so I can come in with the claws. I can go in with the claws again, and then I can either Dread Screamer or Command and Conquer. And obviously finishing on a Command and Conquer is really good. It doesn't get the bonus from Bloodrush Bellow, though, which is a pain. But, you know, either's a good choice. Yeah, claws again. And then Dread Screamer for 8. Can't complain. And then you'll see I just banish 3 cards. Get myself my Go Again. Levia turns off. Perfection. Turning off Levia with an 8 strength attack is just glorious, right? But I didn't need to most of his game because you have a lot of cards you can just play to build up your graveyard before you start actually going ham on the banish. And if you're drawing your Bloodrush Bellows and stuff like that, when you've got a low blood debt, it's actually a really strong way to play that just feels very in control. Now, obviously, not every game goes like this. You don't always draw your Bloodrush Bellows early game. Sometimes you have to choose between Bloodrush Bellow or banishing from Arsenal. But, you know, it's not so bad. There's lots of options. The best turn I can do here, I think, is just pulping. Pulping in for 6, get some dominate, and then go for the attack, really. 6 with dominate, he only has 1 equipment left. He'll probably go down to 1, and then his husk is banished, so I win, right? So spoilers, I did play another few games against Chain after this match, and I did lose another one of them, but it does feel like Levia has a very good aggressive matchup into Chain. So I think it's quite interesting, actually. With the Chain meta being so strong, a lot of people could have been playing Levia this entire time and smashing the Chains. And I do wonder if this deck might have seen a bit more refinement. If more people had picked it up, there could have been more people trying out new things like running Graveling Growls or new ratios of Blood Debt and things like that, and might have landed on another version or an alternate version of this. Who knows? Who knows? But I think it's just quite interesting to see. And I think it's just quite an interesting deck to play. Let's see if we can skip ahead to the Chain player deciding what to do. Let's see, pitches a blue. Comes in with a Ghostly Visit. I block for 3. Because realistically, this turn, I'm just going to try and pulping. I don't need to keep a lot of cards in my hand. So I could just block with the Dread Screamer. But realistically, I'm just trying to not take too much damage, just so I can, you know, I still don't have a huge amount of Blood Debt, so if I take 1 from Blood Debt, it's not the end of the world. Actually, I think what I should have done that turn is just taken the damage and then just gone Dread Screamer into pulping, or pulping into Dread Screamer. Because what I've done here basically is set myself up for a bit of Blood Debt. Yeah, no, but I win because he can't stop me next turn, and then he loses to the Carrion Husk. So there we go. That's Levia versus Chain. For those of you still watching, of course, you have enjoyed this game. If you want another game of Levia, do let me know. I have another video which is Levia versus a very good aggro Katsu player who I personally learned a lot from, who is very good at the game. And he beat me, but it was a much closer game than you thought. So if you listen this far and you would like to see that video as well, do let me know and I'll put some time into commentating over it. But of course, otherwise I'll be working on other projects. So, if you're really keen on it, let me know and I'll put some time into it. If not, I'll move on to other stuff. Obviously, if you're still listening this far, thank you very much for your support. I'm really enjoying making Flesh and Blood videos at the moment and just playing more games and talking about them, finding decks that people haven't really thought about, talking about the meta, talking about spoilers, and also taking the time to look at other new games and things like that I haven't really had a chance to look at before, and just generally spending a bit more time involved in gaming and sort of doing all those kind of things. As I always mention at the end of my videos, please do, if you've listened this far, definitely give me a like and a subscribe, because you clearly want to hear what I'm saying. And I also do have various, not Patreon, but something called Ko-fi, which is a UK based Patreon equivalent. Basically, if you want to see me record more games in person and things like that, I probably can't do it without the funds to buy a better camera. So, if you really like my content, really like it, and that's the sort of thing you want to see, then you can head over there and chuck me a few pounds and I will try and save up and buy a good camera for recording things in person. It has also been requested by a few people that I offer them one-to-one coaching sessions or Katsu. That is something I can offer people, but I can't really do it for free, to be honest, just because of how time limited I am. So if that's something you really want, get in touch and we can talk about it. I'm obviously a reasonably good player and I obviously think a lot and like talking about the game. So if that's something you're interested in, we can sort it out. But, be sure of, that's what you want before you're willing to sit down and think about, because, obviously my time is not massively available all the time. I do have a full-time job. So, we would just have to work something out on that regard. So do, let me know about that. But, as I say, I don't expect many people to take it up. The fun, of course, is in learning the game yourself. Though some people do struggle with that and do need a bit of help. I've never had a problem answering questions. People will know. Anyone in my channel has sent me a message and asked me a question. I've usually responded. I give my thoughts. I give my advice. I'm not keeping my cards close to my chest. I want people to enjoy playing this game, optimize their gameplay, and have really good time at tournaments, especially if they're tournaments I'm not even going to. You know, I'm going to the RTNs in the UK. If someone beats me with an aggro Katsu deck, then fine. If someone beats me with Levia, then fine. And if they say, oh, I watched your video and that's how I learned how to win, I'll be like, great, that's fantastic. If someone beats some American RTN that I'm not going to with my aggro Katsu deck, then great. Congratulations, I want to hear about it, you know. So that's it, really. Obviously, Tales discussions will be keeping on going. I'm just waiting for a critical mass of spoilers to build up. I've obviously got another game as well that I have a Learn to Play video coming out for called Legacy's Allure, which I think is going to interest a lot of people from the tabletop and gaming world. It's a really tactical and strategic game using hexes and cards to play basically what is like advanced game of chess where every piece has multiple capabilities instead of just movement abilities, and every unit has different attack and other capabilities. It's really interesting. So I'll be doing a video on that soon. In the meantime, thank you again for watching and of course listening this far, and of course sorry again, Levia. I was wrong. Yeah, the game, to be honest, the whole community was wrong. Levia is not bad. She took a while to figure out the optimal way of playing her, but she's not bad. You know, she's gonna die to blood debt sometimes. That's just what's gonna happen. But that doesn't make her a bad deck. It just means that she needs some more fine tuning, and she may be not as consistent as some of the others. But that doesn't make her, you know, terrible. It makes her just, you know, not tier 1. And it's fine. But I think after playing this version of Levia, I think she's a solid tier 1.5, tier 2, and that's good. I think she could easily beat many of the good heroes in the game, especially with a good run. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and of course, you know, talk to you soon. I like speaking. Hence, Steelfur speaks.